And I crossed the line second, and I'm punching the air. I'm screaming in that car. I have never been in so much adrenaline in my life.
Yeah.
Go! And you're doing it again! That's a massive crash. And it's happened immediately! This is amazing! Big shot, and it's lights out, and away we go!
The thing that was great about F4, being a globally recognised category, we had... So the long part of the story is when Dad was racing Formula Ford, he was... his engineer was Mick Kouros, who is still over in Europe now. I think he works pretty closely with Callan Williams.
Yeah, in F2, yeah.
Yeah, so at the time that I was doing F4, you know, Mick was talking to Dad and saying, you know, you got to get Jimmy over to Europe and things like that. And we were super close to going over and doing a couple tests. I think it was Team Listec that was trying. I don't think they still operate, or they might have changed names or something.
Yeah,
but at the
I'm
time, it was Team Listec, and they were trying to get us over for a test. And we got a official letterhead from them trying to get government support, because I was like, I think the test was going to set us back about 50 grand. And that was like a lot of money. Like, that was huge. So we were like, we can't afford that, but we'll see if we can raise the money. You know, we'll try to do a couple fundraisers, or we'll try to, you know, get the New South Wales government or the Australian government to help out a young Australian driver to get over there for a test. And we worked hard to get it happening, but it was probably about this close for us to getting over to Europe. But then we just had the reality check of what happens. We asked them, we said, what happens if we go over there and we set the world on fire? We go set lap records every lap. What's the next step? Like, what is going to happen? And they said, oh, well, to do this championship, it's going to be 1.2 million euro, or to do this championship. It was all in the millions. And I was like, even if I go over there and test this car and do a fantastic job, where am I going to get that sort of money to continue to race that? I said, it is just... It's unreal. Like, the amount of money you need to go to Europe is crazy. And it was at that point there that I said, this is not worth it.
How much was for the test though, like in general?
I think it was...
I was explaining this to Brooke last night.
I think the figure we ended up needing was about 50 grand, and I think that was for 3 days at 3 different tracks. So I can't remember the tracks exactly, but... I know that it was at the time, I think it was what they were running in the Euro Formula Championship, which was, they explained it to us, it was pretty much like an F3 car. It was like the same style of
They
car.
were the same chassis and whatnot.
Yeah, so it was a lot of money, and it almost happened, but I suppose in hindsight, if it did, I don't even know. Like, it's a lot of money to go and spend on a test to... Just come back to Australia, you know. Like, at that point in time, a lot of kids were going over to Asia. I know Nick Rowe was doing a lot of racing over in, I think they would, what was it, the Formula 4 Southeast Asia Championship or something.
Yeah, he went to
Malaysia.
Yeah,
Jordan Love and Nick Rowe, a couple other guys, they were all over there with Meritus GP. And we thought about, because they were trying to get us over to Asia as well and to do some of that stuff. And I thought about it, but I just didn't. At the time, I didn't think it would take us anywhere if we went and raced in that category. And looking at it now, speaking to when I was racing F4, speaking to Rowe and Jordan Love, they got a lot of opportunities from being in Southeast Asia. And looking at it now, I'm like, it probably wouldn't have been the silliest idea to go over and have a go and see how we go in that championship. And it might have sort of dog-legged us into like a European scene in a weird way, but you know, the money, the amount of money to do European racing is crazy. We looked at TRS at the time. We were going to go over to New Zealand and do that summer series.
Oh, the Toyota Racing Series.
Yeah, we looked at that because, as I said, like at that time, it was like all the hot shots from Europe. All the F3 kids, all of them in their off-season, they're going to TRS.
Yeah, Tommy Randall did that, didn't he? He won it.
Yeah, he won it. So I looked at that and I was like, you know, maybe we should do that. But I think it when you look at the budget it was for, 5 weekends in a row, I think it was like not far off a full season in F4 at the time for us. And I was like, I'd rather race all year, not in the succession in 5 weekends. You know, like we couldn't raise that money. Not in New Zealand. Like it wouldn't have happened. So... I sort of sat there and we didn't know what we were going to do. We couldn't raise the money to go to F4 again. F4 copped so much hate for how CAMS dealt with it. It copped a lot on social media. It's no secret. And so we tried to go back to it, but then the corporate support was not there anymore because it was like, well, why do you want to associate yourself with a category that's getting so much hate online? And I sat there and I said to Dad, I was like, what are we going to do? Like, we've been trying to chase this open wheeler path. We were on the doorstep to go to Europe and chase it properly. And look at us now. We're still in Australia. Why are we even in open wheelers? Like, this doesn't really make any sense. And Dad said, why don't we look at trying to get a touring car, like a production car? And I sort of looked at him with a funny look on my face and I said, I don't want a touring car. Like, I love open wheelers. That's all I've raced. I don't even know if I can drive a touring car. Like, it's a different beast again. And Dad said, no, I think if you're going to keep racing, then this is the only option. So I sort of thought, all right, let's have a go then. If that's the only option, let's give it a go. And we sold the Reynard we had at the time. And with that money, it was pretty much a straight swap. We bought a 000 Racing 86 from Chris Reeves. And that was probably the biggest step as far as progression in my career. That step we took there set me up for the next 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
You know, like that was pivotal in my career to continue racing. Because if I stayed in trying to chase the open wheeler trajectory, I don't think I wouldn't have gotten very far at all. You know, I wouldn't have been able to prove myself. I wouldn't have received any drives anywhere because there wasn't the market for it. And it sucks that there wasn't, but it was just that simple. And in 2016, all we did was production touring, you know, and we were running at state level, and I was opening a lot of eyes, which was the biggest thing. I opened a lot of eyes because in that little 86 production car, I'm giving it to the Commodores. I'm running around the outside. I'm doing crazy passes.
Didn't you win the actual championship in that car, essentially, by points?
I almost did. I came second by, I think, 3 points in that second year that I did it. But in the first year, we won the endurance championship outright, and we did a couple of like longer enduro races with Mark Kane, and I think in our 86 at the Sydney 4 Hour with Mark Kane, we ended up 5th outright, and that was like huge because we're a Class D car and we were 5th outright, and we were like, how cool is this at Australian level? Yeah, and so we were opening a lot of eyes, and you know, I had a lot of people, because as soon as the thing is, and what I've said to a few younger kids that I've helped mentor through the ranks now is what I set my goal for in racing was I wanted to be able to race at a level that, you know, I was always prepared to work full time as a sign rider, but I wanted to get to a level where I could race where it wasn't costing me any money. And so whether that was subsidized by sponsorship or if it was guys giving me free drives in their cars, that was my goal. And until I stepped into a production car, that goal was never going to happen because no one's going to trust you and throw you the keys to their car if all you've raced is an open wheeler. Like, it just, they're a different beast. So they don't know if you can drive it or not. They don't know if you can drive it safely. And so racing production cars, we had heaps of fun, did some crazy maneuvers, didn't damage our car at all, which was the biggest thing. And from there, we gained a lot of respect in racing in general because everyone knew that I was a fierce racer, but I was always going to remain clean. I didn't want to damage my car. Why would I want to waste money on fixing my car if I sent it up the inside and T-boned someone out of the way? Like, it's not worth it to me. So I've always been of the philosophy of drive clean and drive hard, but don't hit someone out of the way just because you can't get past them. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it was that year in particular that Greg Nolan was helping us out with a couple boys at some of the endurance events, changing wheels and stuff like that. And Greg was huge in helping us get to the 86 series because he had a few contacts and he was pushing hard. He said, you've got to get into the 86 series one way or another. Sell that car, buy a car, get in someone's car. This kid has to get to 86 series level. And it was at that point in time that he was talking to Bruce Williams a lot. Bruce was part of Auto Action and a big name in the motorsport world. And he had the 86 that Ben Grice was running in 2016 was the first year of 86 series, and Ben Grice was running Bruce's car. Still with all the ASIN sponsorship all over it and things like that. After that year, Bruce wanted to find someone else to drive the car, and Greg was fundamental in pushing really hard to get Bruce to put me in the car.
So Bruce was essentially a talent spotter for that car, was he? In a way.
Pretty well. He owned the car, and so he was like he had the ASIN sponsorship.
Yeah.
So through Auto Action and his contacts that he had the sponsorship for the car, and he was effectively he was out there looking for drivers to fill that seat. And you know, to begin with, when we first started talking to Bruce, it was he wanted us to drive the car, but he wanted us to bring a budget too. And we basically said to Greg Nolan, who was pushing so hard at the time, we were like, we don't have corporate money. We can't get sponsors that easily at this level because we haven't proved ourselves enough yet. Yeah, we've got a lot of really good close friends in motorsport, but no one that was jumping out of their skin to help us. So I still had some support from Tool Force because they continued that support from F4 to just follow me wherever I wanted to go. Yeah. But then it was at that point in time when I was talking to Bruce that, you know, he was talking to a few other drivers and he said, you know, these other drivers have budget, so I want you in a car, but I need you to find the money. And we had a go, but I basically said to Greg Nolan, I said, mate, I can't do this. I can't find the money. I'm trying, but I can't. So I don't think I'm going to get this drive. And Greg pushed really hard, spoke to Bruce, and then said, put him in for a test. Get him to go to the media day and do a test in the car. And we went to the media day, did all the media for the 86 series, and we were pretty quick. Like, we were up the front. And, you know, it was that point in time that Bruce looked after us and cut us a massive deal. And he said, you know, I'll let you run the car. I've got the sponsorship money covered, but you guys run the car as if you own it. So, you know, you do all the maintenance in between rounds. You run it yourselves at the track, and I'll cover the bills for entries and tyres and fuel and all that sort of stuff. So we sat there and went, like, this is next level. Like, this is our chance where we're in the best gig here. Like, you know, Bruce was Bruce owned Auto Action, so we were getting heaps of coverage in the magazine, and, you know, we had this awesome opportunity to race the 86 series, and I must admit, I still went into that year with no expectations. I've never set expectations on myself because I don't want to set myself up for failure, you know what I mean? So I'm just always flying by. I'll let my driving do the talking, and I always just try my best, but I didn't go into that year thinking I was going to do any good. Again, I said to myself, if I can be in the top 10, I'll be pumped with that, you know, and that'll be an achievement. And when I turned up to Phillip Island for our first round, in practice, I was outside the top 20, and I was trying my hardest. And I went into Dad, and I was like, holy crap, I suck. Like, I thought I would be better than this, but I suck. And Dad was like, what are you doing so wrong, mate? Like, what is it that is so bad about why are you outside the top 20? And, like, I looked like a fool because, you know, I'd been given this awesome opportunity in this awesome car, and I was struggling to get inside the top 20. It was a competitive field, don't get me wrong, but that was bad. And I was like, this is going to be hard. This is going to be a hard year. And then we sat down on the Friday night after practice and looked at all my footage. And it was actually my dad who turned around and said, you're over driving. And I said, what? And he goes, tomorrow in qualifying, when you go out on that track, I want you to drive hard. I don't want you to try. And I said, what do you mean, Dad? And he goes, look at how you're driving. Look at how you're attacking every apex. No wonder you're so slow. He said, you're not getting a run out of the corners anywhere. And I said, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, I can't go fast by going slow. Like, that's stupid. And so in qualifying, I was out there, and I'm, again, running outside the top 20. Dad gets on the radio, and Dad goes, mate, you have one more flying lap. Slow down. Just slow down. Go do this lap as best as you can, but slow down. And I went, whatever. So I did. I was like controlling myself at the apexes. And I crossed the finish line and Dad went, "You P6." And I went, "What? P6?" I was like, that's like, we lost it. We were like, how cool is this? And then, long story short, we went into that first race and I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
Like I'm talking, we're like in a 40-car field. I'm in P6 and I'm going, right, let's just, I'm expecting to just go shuffled back outside the top 20 again. And I'm racing with guys like Luffy.
Yeah.
He's the
Well,
invited.
Corkindale was in that field too, I think.
He might have been that year, actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, actually, he was the year before. He sold his car to Aaron Cameron.
That's right.
Yeah, so
But you still had a lot of competition in that field.
yeah, there was Cameron Hill, Aaron Seaton, Trent Grubel, Tim Brook, Cameron Crick, like all these.
Luke King too.
Yeah, Luke was there. Yeah.
Was,
there was a lot of real fast dudes who have gone on to do great things. But I got off the start and I got a pretty good start in this first race. And, there was a bit of biff and barge and I actually raced myself to third and I'm sitting in P3 and I'm going, how am I in P3? Like in the car, I'm going, like I'm gripping the steering wheel so tight going, how am I doing this? Like, and I'd never been in that position in such a competitive field where like, I'm actually faster than the guys in front of me. And I'm catching them and I'm passing them and I'm driving away. I'd never been in that position because I'd always been like, qualify fifth, finish fifth because you're just racing around the pace of the guys around you. Or you're struggling and you fall back through the field. But I was that shark and I'm smelling blood and I'm going, I'm taking this. And it was in that first race that I caught up to the back of Cameron Hill and Aaron Seaton and I was all over the back of them, but they were having this top dice. And it was that point there where Seaton, Hill went wide at 2 to get the run off the corner and Seaton tried to fill the gap and hit him. Yeah. And then Cameron DNF'd. Or, no, he got a puncture actually. I think he came last, but he still finished the race. And I then started this battle with Seaton for the last 2 laps. And in that moment, I had no idea that Aaron Seaton had a penalty because he just took Cameron out. Yeah. So I had no idea that he had a penalty and I'm just racing for the win. Yeah. And I'm like trying the outside moves, trying the inside moves, and I'm all over him. And I crossed the line second and I'm punching the air. I'm screaming in that car. I have never been in so much adrenaline in my life. Yeah. And I got in and there's these awesome photos of Dad and I like sprinting each other and jumping into each other's arms after the race because we were just in another planet. Like we were in another planet at that point in time and that was just like, we just got a trophy at national level. And then they told us that Aaron had a penalty and we had effectively won the race. And we were like, did we just win our first national level race? Yeah. Like we were so gobsmacked. And it was at that point there that we went to the second race and I wanted to win. I wanted to cross that line first because I didn't get to do that in the first race. We got awarded the win, but I didn't cross the line first because Aaron got the penalty. So I was hungry and I have never driven a car so aggressively in my life trying to win. And we did. It was controlled aggression, but like I was having this awesome battle with Warren Luff and he ended up being my driver coach when I went to Porsche.
Really?
Yeah.
I was going to ask that. I was going to ask the Porsche thing.
And we always talked about this battle at Phillip Island because it was so good. We gave each other so much racing room, but we're like over and under and it was just so much fun. And we won that race. And it was, again, that elation was just like more than the day before. And I didn't think that was possible. We came in and we're punching the air. We were leading the championship after the first round. And I thought to myself, we got lucky. Phillip Island, I was fast, but we got lucky. Like, we got to try to keep this up. And then it was just the year just kept going stronger and stronger. We were always up the front. We were on the podium every single race. We were just consistent. Consistency was our key. Cameron Hill was winning the races, but we were always there right behind him. And we were just collecting points. And we were collecting a lot of trophies too. And then
you get podium trophies for each race.
Each race, yeah. And it was awesome. It was such a good year. And from those victories, my name started to become much more serious in the racing world. Like I went from this kid that I was just another race kid, you know what I mean? But then I was like, oh, you're actually up the front. You're actually winning. Like you're getting podiums. You're leading the championship. Like this is you're good driver. And I still didn't believe it. I was like, oh, it could all turn. Like, it could all turn. And, I want to win this championship, but I didn't think I could.
Wasn't there prize money involved too in the
50 grand for the win. Yeah. So it was a good incentive.
Yeah. G'day, I'm Dan Hooley-Holohan, and welcome to my motorsports podcast On the Couch with Hooley Season 2, which is more than just a motorsports podcast. My guests are from all sides of the track, eras and personalities. You'll meet some who have spent their careers chasing the dream to those who have only just touched on it and went on to aspiring journeys. We learn their stories beyond the helmet.